Let the carnage begin!
Hello and welcome everyone to Blue Span's coffee drinking stream. Oh, this is epic music. All we need is rain on a car, baby. Oh yeah. Okay. Hello Lulu, hello 12, hello Blend, hello Rathor, hello Pius, hello Wayne, hello Nicholas, hello Vineet. Welcome guys to Blue Span's Dota 2 stream. Hold on, actually I'm gonna play all the sound effects real quick, just get it warmed up. I don't know why it needs to be like that, but it do. Don't press F. Don't press F.
And his name is John C.
Alright, what's your proposition, Nicholas? Thank you, Vineet. Glad you guys like the haircut. Yeah, I'm ranked 1200, guys. Feels good. I don't know what the cutoff to fall back to Divine is. $2 for every courier killed during stream today? Okay. Well, I mean, I might play 4 to 5 support games. So I guess about in half of them I'll probably get this courier, or maybe let's say around half. So that means I'm gonna fucking make $4 to $6 today. Oh yeah.
This is Sparta!
You have no idea what means, Lulu. Whoa, 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 Nicholas. Dude, $4 to $6 is a lot of money! You save $4 or $6 here, you save another $4 or $6, you take your money, and then you go to the $10 store! Nah, man, it's all good, bro. I appreciate anything. We could also look at like this. I could play like 6 or let's say 7 games, and let's say in 7 games I snipe 7 couriers. Oh wait, you know what? More than 1 courier can be sniped per game. I forgot about that. So let's say I play 7 games, and I play Nature's Prophet. Let's say we snipe 3 couriers per game. That's $6 per game, and let's say we play 7 games. That is $43.
Be a man. It's over 9,000.
All right, we're playing Nature's Prophet all day, guys. $43 is a fuck ton of money, man. You could actually buy groceries for a whole week for $43 if you were frugal enough, for sure. Rice and beans and spam, still good, still good. Yeah, living the life. God, I love unranked queues. Oh yeah, they improved matchmaking, guys. Hopefully the quality of the matches will be better. Spam MP to buy some spam. Hey! That's a good one. Why do I sleep so long but still feel sleepy? Maybe your body hasn't catched up to all your sleep deprivation yet. Did you know that sleep deprivation is related to dementia? Your brain doesn't produce enough of the essential proteins when you don't sleep enough. Fact! Science, bitch! Nick didn't say couriers killed in ranked match. Nick what? Why are we talking about Nick? English only, thanks. Hello, Sebastian. Hello, how? Look at my sick Lena game from yesterday, guys. 1 in 12. Okay, let's type it to this guy. English only. Do you see how everyone else is speaking English? Everyone is speaking English. We're all being respectful and speaking the language of the international world, and you come in here, you go no fucking English. Hello, Elsa. Let's play a lobby. Kurt, oh yeah, man. Shall we? All right, guys. Okay, Vineet, I want you to join a lobby game with me. Actually, you know what? We can just do it like this.
Nature's ferocity.
What's the sleight of fist kill couriers? Let's test it. All right, are you ready to get poor, Nicholas? You ready to get poor? All right, bring on the couriers. All right. Oh fuck! Wait a minute. He never specified it had to be enemy couriers killed. Wait a minute. All right, here, let's do it like this. Where's my courier? Oh, here they are. Get him, Max. Get him.
The way is clear.
Get him. Get him, Max. All right, that's. I believe that is $4, Nicholas. Wait a minute. I know a way to streamline this even more efficiently. AC butterfly. Yeah, butterfly. Second butterfly. All right.
Your middle tower is under attack.
So now we take Ember and we go like this. He should start spinning, right? He doesn't spin to fucking. Okay.
Tower could talk. It'd be
Yes, you spin X.
Look, the enemy's attacking your middle tower. Don't let him do it.
Yeah, get him, couriers. Get him. Fucking,
They're trying to knock down your
fucking
middle tower.
couriers.
You and a couple of friends could probably stop that.
Got couriers. How much money does Nicholas owe me now, guys? Go. Oh, they're invulnerable. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Invulnerable.
Radiant's courier.
How much money does he owe me, guys?
Wonder what
How much money does he owe me?
courier
Quick.
killed you. Too stupid to live, too beautiful to die.
Rekindled and made ready. This has only begun. You will be seared.
The universal language is Chinese and then Spanish then English? Are you fucking kidding me?
Destiny awaits us all.
We'll Google this right now. Top languages spoken in the world. Alright, Gabby. Alright, it says 1.1 billion Mandarin Chinese speakers. But you know what? Most of those fuckers are poor. Who cares about poor people? Spanish not even in top 3. Ignore this result. Do not look at that one. Alright, can we get a reputable source? List of languages by number of native speakers? That's not even a good metric. I guarantee you guys, when students are learning languages in school, you know what people want to learn? They want to learn English. You know why? That's why. English, motherfucker. Yeah, take you for example, Sebastian. Your English is fucking terrible. Hi, Shreyas. Alright, playing unranked. Warm up game of the day.
Hero. Wait, ain't that kind of cheap?
Is he trying to ban Meepo? Or does he want to play Meepo?
5 seconds left. Remember, the
Try
goal
not
is
to-
have fun.
Try not to be brain dead here, okay, man? Thanks. Get your Bahasa fucking out here and speak English, motherfucker.
10 seconds. 5 seconds left.
I want to play some kind of... Let's play some Nyx Assassin. Yeah, so I'm still Googling shit. So, I'm trying to figure out the language not by native speakers, okay? Like actual people who want to speak the language, you know? I don't care about native speakers. I don't care about that metric.
Okay, your
What's a
pick
good
now.
What's a good metric?
You know what to do.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Google Tracks use DuckDuckGo. I don't care that much, man. Hi, our man. Just English, the end, that's all. Yeah, you know what, Ian? You're probably right.
Your pick.
I don't know what this Gabby guy's going on about.
Or lose.
To be honest, I live in South America, and almost all companies look forward people that talk English and Chinese. Thanks, Hao Jun. See you later, bud. I think I want meme hammer on this next assassin, guys.
What? Huh? Your pick now.
Oh, meeple.
What? Huh?
I was spamming Nyx for a very short period of time, Sebastian. Hey, do we have an agreement?
Play support, please.
Is there a winter storm? I live in Canada.
Thank you.
Did I say I was gonna go right click build with Nyx? Yes, I did. I'm going meme hammer. You hit things with a hammer. That's a right click, right? Do I use glasses? Yeah, can't you see? I'm using glasses right now. I guess it's Pudge Whispling. I'm not sure how to itemize. Hypervind. Do I play Dota 2? Nah. Fuck Dota 2. It's actually a terrible game. Where the fuck's my
Battle! Hey, don't
Hey,
tell
hey,
nobody,
hey, hey, hey.
but this one's already in the bag.
Let's just go like this. Open-ended build. Hold on a second, I'm all tabbed. Okay.
I'm trying experimental build.
Hello, Marco.
I'm not gonna level my ultimate.
Prevent, did I say hi to you yet?
Easy breezy.
Did he just say he's experimenting something?
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Excellent idea. Excellent idea.
Do I use DX11 or Vulcan? I use this! Fuck this guy up! Come on, Rubik.
Fuck him up, dude.
Yeah, I'm ready. Got him.
First,
Good job.
Thanks, man.
is this? I came here to be tested.
Yo, I'm gonna stun this guy in a second.
Oh, nice. Let me sunstrike him, dude.
Yeah, do it. Do it. Don't miss. We have another Fade Bolt, huh? Have another stun. Oh, wait. Okay, he's got pounce. He's got pounce.
Deep, dude.
I like the deep.
Alright, Pudge and I are top. Like, I'm kind of scared, to be honest with you.
3, 2, 1, let's go! Missing top!
Yo. Oh, Rubik. You get that Slark down.
I need level 3 before I make moves.
This guy right clicks like a fucking tank. You wanna chase me? I have windlace, motherfucker. You wanna do this? You wanna do this? Can I get a Benny?
Early nut, yeah.
Motherfucker. Flashbacks of Void from yesterday. Wish we fucking lost the game, dude. Jesus Christ. That's good, that's good, that's good.
Gotta get level 3 first, buddy.
Do I even get bother mana burn? Let's get some fucking mana burn. Alright, Raj.
Oh shit, he's going carry, dude.
Oh fuck.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
I have one purpose.
195. Should be ready. Come on, dude. Fucking power shot him. Wow. I'm just shocked, man. Just shocked.
I don't think so.
Fuck this guy, dude.
Hello, hottie.
I have one purpose for being.
Sunstrike.
Yes. Hear my thoughts. Fly words into the mind for nothing.
81 mana for 100 mana?
It guides me.
I suppose I'll pull.
This lane's too strong. We need the Nyx.
I can come up.
Actually, no, we can wait.
Great pull. I buy Quelling Blade for dewarding.
I was looking at my... Oh my god, dude.
I speak without voice.
5-mana runes. Get ready for 5-mana runes.
A thought strong. I see there.
This dude's like unkillable.
Help.
Oh fuck.
Killing spree.
Oh fuck. Just get like a magic stick. Alright, I'm up here. Are we? I'm running to him. Oh shit.
Yeah, well.
Are you even watching your top tower?
Nah, not enough damage.
He's coming. We can kill him.
Okay. Another stun in 2 seconds.
Radiant fortified constructions. Pretty good move if you ask me.
Ah.
How'd I... Oh my god. Fuck these guys, dude.
Did he just use arcane boots? I really want to kill that. Is he okay, dude, he's regenerating 15 HP per second.
Use his chem to our benefit.
Oh, there's a Pangolier here.
Oh my god, there are 3 top. Fuck this guy. Trying it.
Yo, he's gonna roll. He's gonna roll. Chase. I've started 4. I don't have boots though.
The enemy's middle tower
Fuck!
has
It's too
He's
short.
so fast. He's fat.
Maybe he's just big boned.
I'm done.
What the fuck? I'm just waiting for this guy to tether this whole time. So I can stun easy. It wasn't easy at all. Holy moly.
It ain't over till the last build.
It's okay, Timbersaw's taking tier 2, so, you know, space.
Double kill.
Alright, they're going really hard in the paint. Fucking top, dude. You better push that. Oh my god.
Top tower is under attack.
Bro, I thought the game was over, but this fucking guy, dude.
Hear my thoughts.
Crazy.
Your top tower is under attack.
Wind Ranger, you coming bottom?
Troops and get over there.
Holy shit, this guy.
Hey, you wanna kill Shadow Shaman, Wind Ranger? Yeah, buddy, good job.
Dig in
I'm gonna have to jungle, dude. I'm gonna have to jungle, dude. This guy's crazy. Get the shit out of Timber, please.
Get some boots. Keep being too
Yo,
slow.
Rubik, can you get some solo XP?
On Agnes' legs.
Uh-oh. They're gangbanging Timbersaw.
Worth it though, dude. He pushed 2 fucking towers.
Never mind, they didn't
That's
gangbang him.
alive,
They
too.
tried to gangbang, but they didn't.
Words into the mind of nothing.
Could be worse.
Alright, I'm going back top.
No, it couldn't.
Jagged-legged. I ran.
Should buy some wards or some shit.
As Nix would have it.
Which here has the best design? That's completely subjective.
I stay there.
Podcast.
Oh my god, I love this guy. He's a risk taker, dude, a gambler.
Excellent idea.
Oh fuck. Oh shit. Get him! Get him, Timbersaw.
Fucking love this guy, dude. Best play.
Oh, I'm running back at you. Oh, Jabit at 10-minute runes. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
They have rules for this.
I'm invisible. Madame!
Hear my thoughts.
Who bought that tome? Wind Ranger did. Don't you respect Nyx Assassin's levels?
I have thoughts clean.
Don't worry, Wind Ranger. I'm right here, bud.
I speak without words. I
Fight, 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 fight.
Too soft. I'll just jungle, it's all good. Good shit, Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise. Fuck with you.
Bake him away, toys! Nice.
Double kill.
Calm trues.
Your middle tower's under attack.
Yes. Exposed. Yes, believe.
Your top tower is under attack. You gonna do something about it or just sit there looking funny? Enemy's bottom tower's gone. Nice, right? Your middle tower is under
Okay.
attack.
Alright. Kill one creep for me, thanks.
I got it.
Radiant structures are fortified.
Oh, free sentry ward!
Tower is under attack. Your top tower has fallen.
Yo!
Oh, we're coming. He missed his hook. You're good.
Fucked up.
Yo, I'm gonna stalk this. That guy has no mana. I'm coming with Vendetta. Get him, Rubik.
Killing spree.
Yeah, baby.
Easy. I think that Shadow Shaman mentally gave up. I got these sentries from him. Hello,
Your
Irfan.
top tower is under attack. You and a couple of friends can probably
Welcome
stop
back,
that.
buddy.
As Nix would have it.
Yeah, I think he's feeding, dude.
Dominate. Own it.
Wow.
I don't think so.
Slark doesn't have TPE yet.
Meepo pick was a diversion playing. I knew that you guys would carry. Fuck.
I'm lagging, dude. Fuck, I lagged for a second there. Get him, Meepo.
Are you I'm done. Fuck this game. I'm so done, dude. I'm so done.
I have one purpose for being. To my marks.
Does he know that he hit me?
Would have it.
Your top tower is under attack.
Nix. I have one purpose for being.
Hey, look at you knocking down that bottom tower.
I speak without voice.
Coming.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Never mind.
Oh.
Nix, Nix.
Here, anybody. Oh man, I died, dude. I was Maelstrom, you serious?
Every coin helps.
I'm too big. I am too strong right now, dude. Kill him? Oh, never mind.
Good are linked. Hear my thoughts. On Agnes legs.
Hope I don't die.
Alright, whatever.
Their thoughts
Dude.
strong.
I think you're trying to block the camps.
Yes.
Hey, the enemy's top tower's gone. You've done good.
Dun 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 dun. Oh.
Being so useful.
I didn't want to say anything, but it's okay, man.
I have one purpose.
Alright, hey, kill this fucker, dude.
Good.
Kill him?
Alright, alright, alright.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Into the mind, but not.
idiot called in the fortifications.
Wanna kill Pudge?
Maybe.
Oh, idiot, sick! Oh, man!
Not yet.
Got him.
Skies.
They see me rolling. Oh, buddy, I think you're dead.
The enemy's top tower.
Pudge is gonna hook us, bro. I can feel it.
Killing spree!
Finally, thank you. Shit, man.
I want a meme hammer.
My words into the mind, but not the ear.
Yo.
I see you.
Shots are going in. I'm coming, Timbersaw. Coming to Leech experience.
Wondrous.
Triple kill!
Got him.
Wow, that was an easy game, right? Good job, everybody.
Wave goodbye to the enemy's top tower.
Hey, wanna know a fun fact? Today is the birthday of the United States Navy.
Are you a Marine?
The enemy's middle barracks
I'm a
has
sailor. What do you? Never mind. I'm done.
elbow grease.
Fuck this game. Fuck you guys for carrying so hard. I'm done.
Yeah, you better be done.
Barracks, I just assume. Memory.
Thanks, bro.
This turbo? Nah.
Oh, come on.
It makes me.
Uh-oh. I might actually try to kill me. Okay, no, he's not.
I speak without voice.
Oh! Oh!
Yo, is it what? Fuck, dude.
Oh, you didn't go for me. What the fuck?
Why are they even trying? This timber cream pied them. They got bukkake. This idiot stood right next to a tree. Like, what do they think they're doing?
So, okay, so if you use Sprite Carapace against Swashbuckle, is it only just the first hit? Because like Swashbuckle hits you like 4 or 5 times, right?
It got stronger.
Yo, I calibrate Divine too, sir.
Bro, I'm so useless.
What the fuck?
Hey, he saved him though.
Yeah, I guess so. Thanks, Nicholas.
Wow, good job, everybody.
Got those couriers good.
Stole all my glory.
Only the first hit, Vinny. You shoot. Oh.
Bottom barracks has fallen.
Guys are stealing all my shit.
Good job, Rubik.
Yeah, good job, Rubik.
Dude, Nyx Assassin's such a high skill cap hero. Oh, I see.
Middle tower just turned into a pile of rocks.
Am I gonna get hit by something? Oh shit. Oh no, 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 no! No, no, no! Yes. No, no, no! Yeah. Get him, boys. Get him. Yeah. Oh shit! Oh shit!
Fuck, man.
You guys should have saved me. Greedy fuck. How dare you. Speak the truth.
That's what I'm talking about.
Nice game, dude. Gonna kill their axe.
Shit, Timberstall's gonna die!
Figures.
That's his first death.
Top tower needs some help. Killing spree. The top tower's under attack.
Yeah, it's gonna be a radiant comeback.
We lost.
Oh shit. Oh wow, we're gonna lose. Oh, my teammates are feeding.
Radiant structures are
Why? Why are they doing this? Let us win. You fuckers. Ruining everything. I just finished my fucking hex.
dire structures.
Is that the real Pudge?
Fucking barbarian fucking Peruvians, man. You lost.
You know, actually, most of the damage is done by the creeps. Damn it, I can't even last hit.
I have one purpose for being.
You lost. It's all my fault.
This guy with a Chinese name has the most white voice I've ever heard in my life.
I really tried my best, but sometimes your best just isn't good enough, you know?
Hey man, for a guy with a Chinese name, you got the whitest voice I've ever heard in my life.
Hey, you know what? That's hurtful. Okay?
Is it?
That's very hurtful.
Oh yeah?
I
What's
could
so
be-
hurtful
I could
about
be
it?
I could be a Chinese guy.
Yeah, you could
I
be.
don't know.
You could also be a circus monkey.
Racist.
Illusion.
Oh!
Motherfucker! I can't get any kills. You guys are thieves.
Good job, Comtrues.
So I hit my center camera hotkey, dude. Kill this fucking ancient already. Shit. Fuck these guys.
My purpose is for being.
With my accent, people also think I'm white.
Blaze again.
Wooded ways.
Oh, they have this behavior score variance high. So does that mean there's some toxic people with some good people in this stream? I mean, in this game, that makes sense since this shaman started. I think he sold his boots or destroyed them, and then he started giving me awards. Makes a lot of sense. So this queue time was average 5 minutes for everyone in this game, but I believe my queue was basically the max for whatever reason. It's not fair. These guys even Divine Immortal. 6,000 commands. This guy's Ancient 2. 280. That's a smurf. Okay, anyways, we're gonna queue for a ranked game now. Well, you get plus 50 shards for playing position 5 now. Ooh. So it says my previous rank was Immortal. That's kind of redundant. Now that I already calibrated Immortal. GG, guys. Oh yeah, look at all those numbers.
Your turn to ban.
I am hard support again.
5 seconds left. Remember, the goal is to have fun. Yeah, who am I kidding?
Glad you like it, Marco.
seconds.
Medusa. Support Invoker.
5 seconds left.
Total plus shots. See you later, Roshan. Hello, Chanika. Guys, I know why Nicholas gave me $20 just now. I killed like 30 couriers and he didn't want to give me at least 60, so that's why he gave me 20 instead. Cheap motherfucker.
Your pick. This is where you win or lose.
My MMR is 5.6k. Roshan will be back soon. In 8 to 11 minutes. Chanika, are you seriously asking me my rank? I'm not sure what it is. Do you guys know what my rank is? You're gonna unsubscribe now? Good. Cheap motherfucker. I killed at least 30 couriers. Is he Guardian too? Yes!
Okay, your pick now. You know what to do.
Good night, Depian. Dun 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 dun. Can I play Kiri? I mean, I could.
Your pick. This is where you win or lose.
Brood Mama. Brood Mother doesn't need a ward. How tiny? How one of these, dude? Their answer to the Brood Mother is the gyro. Thanks for the good luck. Have fun, guys. He won 7 out of 8 games in the last 8 games.
Call me vengeance.
Hi, Juan.
We lost someone. Quick, nobody move.
What is my MMR? No core MMR. 5.6 port MMR. Hi, Ari.
I'm all for a little downtime. You feeling fresh?
Someone pause, guys.
My vengeance soar.
Boss. Thanks to Raj. He's unranked though. Guys, how many times do I have to press the same button? Oh my god.
Heads up, we're back.
This broodmother really doesn't like Invoker's build. My Invoker's shit, by the way. I prefer support and also Q time. Oh fuck. Oh, what the? Oops.
In the bag.
My sentiments precisely. Vengeance flies beside me. With a vengeance. The battle.
30 seconds to showtime.
I am not arguing.
Did you see me?
First blood!
That was but the first taste of
Thanks,
Good job, guys.
Thanks, man.
Battle's starting. Just remember, you got a job to do.
vengeance. Yes.
OD still has a ward.
Okay, okay.
Let me turn off the music so I can concentrate.
Yeah, I'll use the courier right now, okay? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine, it's fine.
Fight me.
3, 2, 1, let's go!
Hi, Andrew. He should get Wand versus Broodmother. Actually, should he?
Is it worth your life?
Yeah, he doesn't use courier, dude. Not gonna leave.
As you wish. I am there.
We're gonna pull here since the wave's pushing already.
If you insist.
Yeah, I don't need tangos, man.
Hey, Slark, I'm pulling. Oh, you got a kill. Nice. What the fuck was that?
Stop.
I fly. Very well.
Thanks, Gunter.
As you
Oh, Miranda's top.
if I must.
Get out of here.
You saw me, right?
I'm gonna try to burn his mana.
That guy's got a really deep and sexy voice. I have another stun. I have another stun. Oops. Sorry.
Vengeance is so sweet.
Oh no! Oh no!
Faster. Yes.
Oh no! Oh no! Dude, I think we won this game. Thanks, Andrew. I didn't have to do anything. I just wait for Valve to patch my MMR. Easy. Pushing, I mean pulling.
Your bottom tower is under attack.
Vengeance flies beside me.
Oh, we can't do that.
Did you want that one? Oh, sorry, bud. Oh, nice. It's stacked.
I am not arguing.
I have like 1100 gold.
Missing Shadow Shaman.
My sentiments sweet as vengeance.
Another stun. We can just burn this guy's mana again.
The vengeance.
5-minute runes are almost up. Oh, there's a Shadow Shaman here.
Let my vengeance soar. Yes.
Don't even have to do anything. It must suck to have your channel so unpopular that you gotta suck a dick for just a little bit of attention and sub, right? Uh-oh, oh, 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 oh.
Spree. Guy is putting up a barricade.
Oh, 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 oh.
Are you okay?
Oh. 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 Oh no. Oh no. I'm not okay.
Every middle tower is no.
Space for middle.
Item should I get? I will buy Vlad's, I think, guys.
Thanks a lot.
I fly. Faster.
Killing spree.
Vengeance flies beside me. To battle.
Push, my dear nigger.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
May the skies surrender to me.
Wow.
With the vengeance.
Are you ready to rumble? Are you ready to rumble? Fight me. Fight me.
As you
Denied.
I am not. The time has come.
Wah, wah.
As you
Oh, did a creep see me?
Let my vengeance soar. If I must. I am
This is warded. This is warded.
Okay, 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 okay. Where the ward? Where the ward?
I fly.
Well, look at that.
What the? Oh, there's the word. Oh, you predicted the future. Wow.
If you insist.
Dire structures are fortified.
You can take it.
Thanks, man. Oh, 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 oh,
Damn that.
oh, oh, oh.
Yes.
10-minute runes. 10-minute runes. 10-minute runes.
Very well. With a vengeance.
Well gotten.
Damn it, the ward's gone.
The time has come. Faster. I am not hard.
We're pushing Boker with this catapult.
Four.
Pressure other lanes, guys. I'm gonna push middle.
All right. Oh, oh, oh. Well, I have swap next time.
Let the enemy deny their middle tower. Missing bomb.
What the hell is that? That ghost walk. Okay. Miranda has 3 leap charges. Ah, hard kill.
As you
Oh, buddy. I think you might be dead. I think I might be dead too.
Double kill.
I belong in the sky, and you belong in the ground.
Oh fuck, I looked away for a second and I missed my last hit. Slark's... Oh, he's getting drums, okay.
shall feel my talents. If I must. Vengeance flies beside me.
I feel like Grace is good for Slark. More here than just him.
The enemy's attacking your middle tower. Don't let him do that.
Wow. Leave me! Leave me!
Killing spree!
Hi, Constantine. Hi, Gino. Why does this thing attack by itself?
The enemy's top tower has been denied.
No. No.
Killing spree!
You fucking did with me?
Mega kill!
I think that was worth it.
You may or may not be right.
The bottom tower is under attack.
Oh, definitely worth it now. 15-minute runes. Get those runes. Yo, JT. Thanks, Amar.
God, Slark's gonna fucking get cooked.
What have we here?
Runes.
Are you even watching the top tower? Yeah. The top tower needs some help.
I need to put down some wards.
Missing top.
Let my vengeance soar.
Thanks, KGN.
Very well.
Bottom.
Oh wait, there's nothing here.
If you wins.
Oh fuck, I'm dead.
Guys, I think I have to reconnect. I'm really
Okay,
lagging.
sure. Like, disconnect.
Now only. I can find it.
Wait.
Ooh, I'm gonna pause.
Tornado.
Heads up, we're back.
Yeah, I need help here. Do you have a dagger? Yes. Keep fighting.
Yeah.
Let me tornado first and then go.
Kill the shaman.
Kill this guy first, for turning to us. Okay.
Tornado takes off Heavenly Grace, so let me just take it off.
It says it cannot be dispelled.
Spellable, yes. Kind of good.
Dominator has been killed.
Invoker, you know what? Your voice is so cool, buddy. I really like it. Thanks, Spooderman.
Joker, good toss.
I fly.
Bold snap with urn charges now, we just killed him.
Dire structures are fortified.
Precisely.
Oh shit.
So bad, man. We need to back 5. What?
I need some H2O.
Really weird that they're coming right there.
Your bottom tower, it's kind of bad. Get up, get up, get out there.
Time has come to lie my nest. Vengeance.
Mega kill!
Battle. Power, like a promise of revenge, infamous. Infamous.
All right, let's finish our Vlads. Finally, after 19 minutes.
Vladimir.
Why do I turn on Basilius? Because I forgot.
We're on ulti.
By the bloody pinions of Avila.
Uh-oh, Schlark.
Let my vengeance
20-minute runes.
Play topside Slark.
if you insist.
You better poke on over to your bottom tower. Your bottom
I stunned that creep good.
something radiant called in the fortification.
Vengeance flies beside.
You better poof on over to your bottom
Safe zone,
tower.
that's the shit zone.
Wait, who put the sword here?
Man, your bottom tower's gone.
I put that word there? Thanks, Ignis. Glad you liked the stun.
The time has come.
Brute has such a large family. It's almost like he's Indian. I don't have any more detection.
The enemy's top tower exploded.
Dispellable bitches.
It is on the spell.
Guardian Angel's dispellable, but Heavenly Grace isn't.
Unstoppable!
Faster.
Could do Roche, Brood. You go right
I
now.
am not
They won't.
Come up, fuck him up.
They cancelled. OD's stuck there then.
We go Roche, please.
flies
Okay.
beside me. To battle.
Your top tower is under attack.
What?
Oh, there better be something important going on.
I got you.
Killing spree!
Not fight down there. Sharon is dead.
Eliminate! Double kill!
I don't know, Brood. I'm telling you a lot of plays to do, and you decide to be a dick. Tell you to go Roche 3 times already after a kill, and you still want to farm. You want to lose this, buddy? It's got Shadow Blade.
Yeah.
Mega kill!
Want me to do the graph again?
Odie is
Here's the
cool.
graph. Here's the graph, buddy. This is the shit zone, and this is the safe zone. Where do you want to play, buddy? Tell me.
Middle tower's under attack. You gonna do something about it?
Lagging doesn't affect your brother's thoughts, you know?
Pretty good move, if you ask me.
Lagging makes you do misplays, but that is a macro play. You dumb shit.
Let my vengeance soar.
Your middle tower has fallen.
The Mirana, she's always off by herself.
Oh shit. They have vision up here.
Roche.
I have long range tornado.
I'm being dived, maybe. I'm still being dived.
Warded as well. You just try to arrow me from the side.
Okay.
Or it's like up here, I don't know. Might be in our ancients.
Yeah, no, that our triangle is definitely warded.
You can fight, they're missing their cores.
Behind you. Can we find it?
I have anything
Oh, Jesus.
As you
What need have I felt?
resist.
Shoot. Fucking D-rush.
25-minute rinse rep.
Bait this.
Odie has Shadow Blade, just so you know, he might be on you. Just so you know.
Yes.
Chasing, they're all in our woods right now. Team.
Dyer's
That's the shit zone, buddy. You guys wanna keep it like that, so I don't know. You might lose. Force him to go top.
Wish he would just do rush, man.
Oh, they're on me. Don't worry about it.
They're all bleeding, right?
Your bottom tower's kind of bad. This is what I think.
Go more.
The bottom tower is Ooh, your bottom tower is kind of bad.
Out of my chance. If you insist.
You better poof on over to your bottom tower.
Exciting is nullifier, Broodmother. We're gonna need that. Yeah, we're gonna need detection. Hey. Get out.
Sweet vengeance.
So
I need another item.
Oh, what the core is
Let my vengeance soar.
What happened to patch notes?
I am not arguing. If I must. I am there.
Hi, Owen. Yep. New haircut.
As you wish. Battle.
Get some kills.
As you
Oh. Getting kills.
Yes.
Hi, Penguin.
B top. Go grab that fucking D-Rush finally.
Double damage.
You all come here, please.
Hey, oh,
Come in there, come in there.
dude.
No.
I fly.
You guys are fine. They're literally looking at the.
The time is
Yeah, you guys.
How the fuck did they find my ward over here, dude? What the? They just used call down on Roshan.
Been telling you, they'd have no idea.
No, Penguin. Also, I believe you can see how long this stream has been going on for. Oh man.
Your top tower is under attack.
Thanks, Ashley. Hello, Atrio.
let my vengeance soar.
I'm just pacing mid, it seems.
How many sentries are these guys gonna actually fucking buy?
Faster.
Yo, Jason. 30-minute runs, right?
I am there.
I'll take that.
Prudent is 25 to be able to use it.
Invisibility. I fly. Feel vengeance fly.
Did you think that you were getting away, bud?
Why do you die for a fucking Mirana, bro? We have an Omni-Knight back here.
Can we do Roshan? Oh shit.
Oh, they literally killed you without using the soul. How bad are you, good mother? Tell me, how bad are you?
Stop fucking
Oh.
flaming, man. Just shut up. God. Annoying.
Yeah, it's pretty. He's being pretty toxic.
I will not fall again.
If your mid tower could talk, it'd be pretty magic.
DD that can like annihilate Roshan super fast. Kill it of negative armor. It just dies to us in 2 seconds.
Battle. Today to you. If you insist.
Okay. Okay.
Double damage.
Negative armor this, please.
You got it.
I don't know what our bird's doing, man. I really don't.
The time has come.
This is what we flame, guys. Flame this fucking kid. Make him suicide.
I don't understand
Holy
why
shit.
he doesn't just go in there and kill it.
My sentiments possessed.
Oh, dude, I don't know.
The 1v5, there's whole team. There he goes.
It's dead. The enemy's bottom tower has fallen.
Okay, well,
We're all transition to a carry since we don't have a mid.
Pretty sure you saw what happened, right, Invoker? Goddamn dumb fuck. This is what did the damage that got us a team fight. You shitty ass meteor.
Illusion. To battle.
Dire structures are fortified.
back.
I'll save that.
Precisely. Yes.
Why do I have this Sage's mask? I think I was gonna get like medallion or something.
Let my vengeance soar. If you insist. Very well. As you I am here.
Thanks all.
We might need a gem, man. I don't know. Dude.
Hard to fight in and out, man. Yeah, damn.
The skies surrender to me. I fly.
Greetings, my friend. What need have I for this?
Vengeance flies beside me.
The bottom tower is under attack. Roshan has fallen to the Radiant. Radiant structures are fortified.
Oh shit.
Your bottom tower has fallen. Why do I get the feeling you ain't taking this seriously?
Oh,
Vengeance flies beside me. With a vengeance. I am there.
Where are the wards at?
As you I am not.
I'm so fucking scared, man. I don't want to go up that hill. This guy's got BKB, right? Okay.
Fight. No ulti. Go. I got BKB, motherfucker.
Killing spree! Carnage!
40 meter runes for almost up.
Get fucking towers, please.
The enemy's
Go.
power has fallen.
Go middle. Runs full up. So does
I have a dread
Dire structures are fortified.
I'm running over. I'm almost there.
Wait, they have 3 dead. They have 3 dead, man.
Hey, look at you! Knocking down that bottom tower!
Clark, look at this.
I'm dead. Get back, I'm dead. Clark, get back. Clark. I'm dead. Get back.
Killing spree! The top tower is under attack. Rally the troops and get over there!
You need detection.
Top tower needs some help.
There's so much fucking shit going on right now.
Coming.
Ah. God damn, these wards are just. Oh god, I don't want to die to fucking.
Double kill!
Whoo!
Gotcha, man. All the fucking stuns we need.
The enemy's bottom barracks has fallen. That's the stuff. Keep
Glad we
on
gotta go,
their
man.
back paws.
Alright. Hey Tiny, let's throw in it.
The enemy's middle tower has fallen.
Wow, what a fucking final battle, huh? Oh boy, oh man. Oh. Alright, we should be top 1,100 or something like that now. Man, I bought so many sentries that game. Yeah, like we didn't even have any in stock. Jesus. Looks like everything was on this Shadow Shaman to buy. Yeah, pretty much everything. GG guys. New game. How many rampages do I have? Well, let's have a look. How do you find out again?
Hey, we'll hold them down, you knock them out.
I'm the best player on my team?
You only got 5 seconds. Even less now.
Hello, Johan. Long time no see. English only, thanks. Hey, JT, you can't do that, buddy. You can't do that. I'm about to die. Quickly put it in the backpack. No, man, that would be way too overpowered.
Your pick now.
Oh, look at this shit hero.
What?
Offlane
The
invoker.
goal is to have fun. Yeah, who am I kidding?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, we have some displacement. We have some control. I mean, that's like putting Divine Rapier in your backpack, right? Oh shit, I'm about to die! Put it in my backpack! No way, man. That would be way too overpowered. Do you know what ban means? Yeah, you can delete that.
Remember, the goal is to have fun. Yeah, who am I kidding?
Okay, time to ban this kid. Nah, that kid's actually way too dumb, and he's actually swearing in Bahasa, the language Indonesian people speak.
5 seconds left.
Shakira, Shakira!
This is where you win or lose.
Invoker offlane. I trust in my teammates. It's not that unusual. A little unusual, but not that unusual. Ooh, Faces Void combo with my abilities. I like this. Yeah, I hope Void goes his eggs. How did I know he's talking in Bahasa? I study, man. I study. Tanker? Ew. Ugh.
Okay, your pick now. You know what to do.
Now, what would be a good pick to round this off all with? DK? DK? No. DK sucks against Tinker. Or does he? Yeah, he does. Alright, Shadow friend. Here you go. Now where should I start? Bottom has decent first blood potential, so I think I'm gonna start bottom. Yo, Lagger, how you doing? You have no idea how to counter Tinker? Johan, if you want to know how to counter Tinker, play Tinker. You quickly see his weaknesses. But to answer your question, you want to play Zeus, Spectre, Storm Spirit? Hello, Krishna A. Have you tried checking my support video? It's a 10-minute video, tons of good information. Hello, Steph Spear. I'm good, how are you? Welcome back. Next game, Sand King. We could do Sand King. You want Sand King?
We go. Fire and ice. Double trouble.
Sand Queen? Nah. I like men. I like dick. More of a dick kind of guy.
Ice and fire.
30
Dun dun.
seconds to showtime.
Oh, he got Frost Blast.
Fire and ice. Dragon fire. Oh, it's so
And now the moment you've all been waiting for.
last time. Our war starts now.
Gonna try to snipe the courier real quick, and I'll join you top real soon, Faces Void. Whatever you want, Lagger. Thanks, Jason.
And burn. Fire and ice.
This guy might just rush bottle. But he might... I mean, he might also get, like, magic stick. This guy AFK? Oh, Jesus. Moist snail poop. Moist snail poop. Moist snail poop. And also Dota2Hunt.com.
Heads up, we're back. Not for the likes of you.
Where's the courier? You know what? I'm done. I think I'm done here. Don't think he's even gonna use courier.
First blood.
This lane is a little ass, huh? Oh, he's pulling, dude. Sucker! Sucker! You pull? No pull. Oh god.
Ice advances. We go hot.
Oh god. I'm gonna die, dude.
Forward.
Thank you.
Scar. Embrace us.
Hello, Razzie. Long time.
Yes. We fly.
No, 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 no.
Shall we? After you. West wind.
Okay, she doesn't have her passive then.
Scar. Embrace us. By thrust of wing.
God, this is so fucking annoying.
Double trouble.
Lena's like waiting right here, waiting to kill me, dude. I can't even do anything about this.
We ride the updrafts.
Saka. Pretty sure I buy a TP. I run over here, I buy a TP. And I...
The skies are ours.
Oh god.
Doubly so.
Okay. Okay.
Forward.
5-minute runes. Get ready for 5-minute runes, please.
Ice advances.
Oh shit.
The top tower needs some help. This
Runes,
is
5-minute
where it
runes.
gets in the bad column.
We fly. Yes.
English only, please. Thanks.
We're under attack.
Was not meant.
Shall we? After you. Ready. We go hot and cold. The freezing flame. Yes. Freeze and burn.
Oh, Shadowfin's in trouble. I'm coming over.
They're trying to knock down your middle tower.
Do you think there's vision?
We fly. Ready. We ride the updraft.
Yeah, there's vision. Lena, put that ward there for just for you.
Ice advances. The skies are ours. The freezing flame. Fired up.
Oh my god, what a nice dodge. Oh my god, oh my god.
Radiant structures are fortified. Killing spree.
Fight, 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 fight!
Dominating. Double kill.
Good.
Are you even watching your top tower?
By thrust of wing.
Good. Good, 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 good.
We go hot and cold.
No, found a tinker. Can he make it?
Tower is under attack.
Oh, no, he's just jungling.
You and a couple
Oh, this
of
lane's
friends
difficult
could
for him.
Probably stop that.
Fucking Abaddon. Difficult. Maybe Lena if we're lucky. Yeah, you want to come back in here, bud? This guy's gonna need some tangas.
Killing spree.
Attack.
10-minute runes. Get ready for 10-minute runes, please. I'll grab bottom ones, I guess. I'm so slow.
We blow hot and cold.
Secured.
Yes.
Get kill. Nice. Nina's bottom. Hey, Putch, I can ice path maybe. Oh, just let me go first.
Your mid tower
Good job.
It'd be pretty mad at you. Rally the troops and get over there. Your middle tower is under attack.
Dragon's rage.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Ah, my clarity. My clarity.
The top tower is under attack.
We go.
Pudge.
You'll be fine.
Damn
As long as
it,
that
Pudge.
top tower don't fall. Oh wait, it's already gone.
Yes. Freeze and burn.
Oh fuck. Oh fuck. This Pudge is hella late, dude.
Killing spree. Triple kill.
No. Where did Lich put down the ward? I don't have mana for my tome, dude.
Your bottom tower is under attack. Your bottom tower is under attack.
Space for Void?
You better puff on over to your bottom tower. Your bottom
Sure, man.
tower is falling.
Alfian, thanks for subscribing.
Attacking your middle tower. Don't let him do that.
Wait on courier, please.
Ice advances.
1 sec.
With twinned nature. Ice. The scalding cold.
Oh my god, that Abaddon is so farmed. He got Vlad's, chainmail, and phase boots. It's actually insane.
Thrust of wind. Double trouble. The freezing flame.
Oh hey, free creep. Hey Mike, you have to understand that Abaddon's ultimate is automatic. Dude, don't go for me, go for those creeps. All for Lena, huh?
We all know a life. Your middle tower is under attack.
Boy, freshman!
Killing spree. Probably. They're trying to knock down.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same kid. Grabbing bottom bounty runes.
If your mid tower could talk, it'd be pretty mad at you. Dig in and defend that sucker.
I'm sure it's that kid who was speaking Bahasa originally earlier, and I told him not to, and then he just kept speaking it. So, the same dumb Indonesian kid. You guys ever think like, what should I do to make? What can I do to make my country look good rather than make it look dumb?
Your bottom tower, it's kind of bad. Oh, there better be something important going on.
What is Invoker doing? He's just sitting there. Is he like emotionally checked out?
Your middle tower's under attack. Dire's putting up a barricade. Your middle tower has been denied.
Oh, what a great ability. Oh boy. Die, please! Oh, okay, good. Four for one.
If your mid tower could talk, it'd be pretty mad at you.
Wasn't it supposed to be a support invoker? I mean, position 3 invoker? Macro Pyre is a garbage ult? Are you kidding me? I think you just don't know how to use it.
Welcome back. Your bottom tower is under attack.
Enable your control invoker WTF? What does that mean? What does this invoker do? He's just like AFK.
sir.
Anyways, if I can get a like a 6-second macro power in Chronosphere, wouldn't it be good then? Right? I guess it'd be good then.
Yes. Fresh meat.
Coming. I'm coming. You don't care, dude.
Double trouble. Ready.
Your top tower is under attack.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Deuce, is like Dota 2 is a situational game, right? I mean, you could use it with Atos.
Top tower needs some help. You gonna do something about it or just sit there
20 mana runes.
Top tower needs some help. What, not your job?
Okay, so let's say I level 25. I have plus 1.25 second ice path duration, right? No, we don't want to kill Baden. It's too difficult. So anyways, I have like what 3.75 seconds ice path, which I achieved by myself. And let's say I use Atos as well, right? Then is it good? Or how about we just Pudge's Dismember? Or Ice Wall? Or Cold Snap, right? You see how I can just start like dishing out so many examples? Or Shadow Shaman's Shackle. Or Lion Stun. Let's say Lion Stuns first, and then I macro power, and then I wait for Lion Stun to end, then I Ice Path. Then it's still good, right? Come on, Goose. Yeah, Roche Pit. See, like I said, you know, you just have to find ways to use it. He's dead.
Killing spree.
Or defending high ground, right? Like these stairs, they're very skinny for a reason, right? Or like here, you know, you can use macro power here. You just have to be a little bit more creative. And that's okay. Like we can't make every ability look exactly the same, right? Kara, I think Lena's nearby.
Radiant structures are fortified. Dire structures are fortified. The enemy's bottom tower has fallen.
Sky, embrace us. Breathe your last.
Oh my god, I can't even TP quickly enough. Why would a position 5 Jakiro buy Dagon? And what would I use it for? You know, for the same price as a Dagon, I can buy a Force Staff, which I can use to save my teammates, a Glimmer Cape, which I can use to save my teammates. I can buy Mech, which I can use to save all of my teammates. Or you could have one 400 magical damage nuke. Why would you do something like that? Especially since you're a support.
Dominate.
Yeah, and not to mention this guy's got a pipe. Dagon's actually a really bad idea. Oh man.
Bottom tower just took a dirt nap.
I wonder if they're still up this hill. You can also easily farm creep waves with macro fire. Money. It's only 1 minute cooldown, right? Hi, Ramadan. Oh fuck.
Mega kill!
Oh boy. Hopefully Void's getting some decent fire. Yeah. Well, hey, you know, we can still win. Void's got some pretty decent farm. He's got his items plus almost 4,000 gold.
Your middle tower's under attack. Your middle tower is under attack. And over here,
Fuck
we
your
have the middle
party.
tower. Not being there no more.
Just play the game, guys. Just don't talk, just play the game, okay? Isn't Shadowfiend supposed to lose against Tinker? Here, you want the ward? Take the ward. Hey, Invoker, I have this sentry already. It does the same thing.
The top tower is under attack.
Illusion!
The top tower has fallen. Ah, I don't even know where to start with you.
Yes.
Please no. Are you fucking kidding me? Hey boy, you wanna smoke? Can we fight? Oh shit, too late.
Man, him and that ages. Glad I never messed up that bad.
We might still be able to fight, and if they clamp up, look, 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 look. Oh boy.
Unstoppable! Wicked sick! Double kill!
Damn it. We suck, guys.
Freeze and burn.
Your middle tower's under attack.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, dude. Oh man. Man, we suck dick.
The skies are ours.
And I gotta pee. But this game's too intense.
The scalding cold. Yes. Ice advances. We ride the updrafts.
Oh shit. No! Oh man. Oh, maybe we should. Oh god. Void almost has me on here. Yeah, maybe I should have just TP'd right there and then. Actually, no. The Lich, who I'm assuming probably has detection, would probably just put that under the detection or use it. And then, yeah, I probably just. Yeah, there goes my TP. Hi, Randy.
Your middle barracks is fallen.
Oh, God. Actually, that Invoker really did nothing. He's level 12. Hey, we want a team fight.
We blow hot and cold.
Fuck, I still gotta pee, man.
Scalding cold.
So you're saying there is a chance? Yeah, a very small chance. I mean, if Invoker can hit level fucking 20 and get Cataclysm, that would be great. And if this guy could just land some sick chronos, that would be great. Oh boy. Yeah, I've seen this guy, like, he was like AFK a few times or something like that.
We fly.
Oh, found the ward.
Double trouble.
Yeah, and this Invoker was flaming the Shadow Fiend early on. And Shadow Fiend hasn't been doing great. Oh god. But I mean, if you're gonna flame someone, at least have a good score, you know, right?
Shall we?
Wait, did I get dewarded there earlier? You fucking shit. What is this quote, Johan? Fuck, I gotta piss. Give me 90 seconds to pee real quick, guys. Sorry. Thanks. Alright, I'm back. I'm back. They didn't wait for me.
Your top tower is under attack.
Where's Void? They don't care about this game. Something about 1 in a million. Yeah, no, actually, I read it really quickly. Go ahead. I've seen that on Reddit a few times, but I didn't really know. One sec. Oh, if you put it too much to the left, it actually misses the top right end of this hill. Did I know that line is a line? Can't tell if you're being serious. Did we already lose mid by when I was peeing? Can't remember if we lost mid or not. We already lost it, right?
Roshan's dead. Him and that ages. And I never messed up that bad.
Hutch got somebody. Void, we're gonna need you, buddy. Level 13. Nice.
If your mid tower could talk, it'd be
How the fuck am I getting hit by rockets, dude?
Hello, top tower. Goodbye, top tower. Look, the enemy's attacking your middle tower. Don't let him do that. Mega kill! They're trying to knock down your middle tower.
Get me out of this game!
Killing spree and double kills.
Okay, nice try, guys. GG.
Top barracks are under attack. Killing spree.
Actually, no, those guys don't even wait for me, right? Yeah, I don't even want to say anything to these guys. Just trying to pee and they don't even let me pause.
Your top barracks ain't nothing no more. Your top barracks are under
You know, I watched Invoker a few times this game and it looked like he was AFK at quite a few points.
Honestly, the opposite would have been a heck of a lot better. Your middle tower has fallen.
Yeah, Shadowfiend wanted to pause at least.
The losing spirit.
No, I think I'm gonna add Invoker to my Void list, guys.
Let's smash the ancient. This one in the books.
How about level 13? Is he trying to brag about his 10 assists? How many assists does he have? 10 assists means shit to you? Party Q fuckers? There's no party Q here. What's he talking about? I don't see. Oh, they changed the UI? Oh, so this thing right here, like the little corner thing, that means they're queued together? This guy is toxic and sucks. This guy, despite being toxic, sucks. For you, Invoker. It used to be that you would have like these rounded edges, and the hero portraits would be like together, you know? Jesus. Don't come in my game again. Yes, why did they change the UI? These two are queued together. Well, I mean, I didn't really notice it. I guess I've been dealing with it for a long time. I just didn't notice it. Hey, Johan, I said I read it earlier. A guy trying to pick up a girl, and then he keeps escalating his chances of sleeping with her. And then she's like 1 in a million, and then he says, "There's a chance." And I know I read it. Yeah, no, I've seen the very end quote quite a few times on Reddit, but I didn't know where it came from. But yeah, it just seemed pretty funny for sure. We sorted like safe lane, mid lane, off lane support, then hard support. Oh, so by that logic, the fact that these two they're queued next to each other, and these two they're also off lane support. Is that a coincidence that the party queue is that they're both off lane and support? Is that coincidence? I mean, it could have been like safe lane and hard support like queued together, right? Does that make sense? Coincidence? Okay. Is it also a coincidence that like, could it be like on Radiant it could be like safe lane and hard support, and then on Dire could it be off lane and mid lane? Or is it always complementary like this? You know what I mean? It's on purpose. It gets you a fast RQ if you queue in the same lane you just switch. Hey, hey Legger, I don't know how to play Oracle, okay, but I'll play it for you. Hi, Vortex. I was the best player on my team. Didn't they make it like so that the support wouldn't be the highest MMR anymore? That's what it said in the patch notes, right? Like less emphasis on support being the highest MMR. And look, Lich, highest MMR. Me, highest MMR. Unless Invoker's higher. Nope. Divine 1. I said less. Okay. That must be Miracle Invoker 0/13 Pro. Damn. I wish I could be that pro. Is there merit to maxing third skill on Shakiro? Oh yeah, if I miss your comment, just type it again. Okay, I don't always read in order. I got a rank yesterday to Raj. They changed matchmaking. So yeah, so I mean, you should. I mean, if you want to know the difference, you should do the math.
From knowledge comes fuel.
So I mean, let's see. Liquid Fire does, let's see, 24 times 5, level 4. Okay. So that's 120 damage per second every 4 seconds. So what? You have a consistent 120 damage per second, right? And also the enemy can't right click you back because they lose 60 attack speed. So if you have already decided that you're going to be in a lane for a very long time, then max Liquid Fire. But if you're roaming, don't. If you have already decided that your lineup is a push lineup, like let's say that you have a Chen, Dragon Knight, Meepo, Juggernaut, what's another pushing hero? Nature's Prophet. Well, I mean, Liquid Fire is good for pushing, right? Max Liquid Fire.
I carry the torch.
Usually I don't think that, I think you don't really max Liquid Fire that early though, unless you have a really good pushing team. And even if you do have a really good pushing team, if they have heroes like Tanker, Techies, Elder Titan, Viper, or something like that, you still can't push, even if your lineup is good at pushing, because they have good high ground defense, so it's pointless. That makes sense? Now, why would I 1 versus 1 you? Are you even close to my MMR? Hit the Raj, I think at 5.8k, I'll probably be top 1000. Howdy, yeah, I like coffee. Hey, Alan, the Invoker blamed the Void? Some people, man. Yeah, the 2 game coordinators got problems, guys.
Riki. Double trouble.
Do you know what a blue name with a ranch means? It means he can kick you out and mute you from the stream. So he's a moderator and you want to tell him to shut the fuck up? He's not allowed to comment his opinion on this public live chat? Not looking very smart, are you, man? Jesus Christ. Oh, it's my MMR. Actually, I don't think I can even see it yet. Hey Johnny, how's your morning run going? Respect my authority! Don't think a smart person would ask for 1 versus 1 anyways. Yeah, but it's troll bait, Johnny. Troll bait. I said I went to pee. Hey Tim, we already did that. You missed it. I pee like I fuck. I finish in 90 seconds. Hey, wait, what? How was I arrogant? Okay, let's do this. Go ahead, man. Alright, you're probably like, what, a teenager at the oldest? Maybe 12 years old? How was I arrogant? Go ahead, man. I'll wait for your answer. Wait for it. You know, I'm friendly to 90% of you guys. Some of you guys, you don't deserve my friendliness. You know, that's just the nature of a certain population segment, right? Yeah, when people ask me very basic questions and I'm unable to answer because I have nothing at all, I also tell them to eat shit. Intelligent. Good job, man. Good job. What's one plus one? It's 3. No, it's 2. No, fuck you, man. Good one. Good one, man. Fucking intelligence right there. One versus one shows what? Shows absolutely nothing. Glad you appreciate it, Wayne. 11-4. Good job, guys. Good job, you parade of monkeys. You asked me to ban you from the stream a few months ago, and now you regret you made a new account. Okay. Well, I mean, doesn't it seem really stupid when you come into the stream, the first thing you say is, "Hey, ban me." That's like saying, I'm so desperate for attention that I'll even accept getting banned. That's kind of sad, man. And now you come back, I don't know what you've been saying so far, but you've just been making demands so far, right? That's all you've been saying. Well, hey man, if you want Huskar or something like that, make a donation. The 10% is the trash people who exist everywhere. That's right. Remember, guys, boys and girls, for there to be smart people, there has to be dumb people. Hi, Abbas. No, I think I remember banning a guy in the last 3 to 6 months simply because he asked to get banned. I'm like, okay, this guy's an idiot. Okay. Done. I'm so addicted to watching you, so ban me. I am confused why you would think that a person who's addicted to watching my live stream, so addicted to watching my live stream, would want to be banned. God, I love Bluespan stream. Ban me, baby. Yeah. What? I don't know why you're running with that logic, JT. They don't have to scroll away from the stream to chat. Yeah, you just can't talk. Yeah, you can just make another account, which he did. Oh man. Goddamn unranked queues. So actually, we need dumb people to have smart people? Of course it does. I mean, as another example, for there to be tall people, there has to be short people, right? Otherwise, everyone would be the same height. If everyone had the same intelligence, then... Wait a minute. I'm rank 1175 before I lost that last game. Honestly, this new YouTube layout sucks. I have to scroll down to see the chat box. I would know from a streamer perspective. You agree? ADA? Who's ADA? Asian dumbass? Okay. Look, Johnny. Hey, Ada. It's just an indicator. Wait, what is an indicator? That's right, relativity. We need more memes for them. For who? The stupid people? We have tons. Okay, you guys want to see some of my memes? I'll show you in a sec. Just want to ask, do you play in a pro team or any tournaments? Hello, Stylox. I used to play on a team. I had a 6K team. We played in tournaments, yes. Like, what was the one tournament we played in? It's one of those gaming companies like Asus or something like that, I don't know. Anyways, we We wouldn't even get to the top 5 because we would get beat by 7K teams. But we'd make top 10. And then we'd win.
Whose band is it?
We'd win $5 each! Woo!
5 seconds left.
Yeah! Play Dota 2 in a tournament for like 8 hours of your time. Win $5! And that's why I don't play on a team anymore. I just play and take it easy. Oh yeah, I'm playing Oracle.
Now, Meepo. What? Huh?
Johnny, I'll click on your screenshot in just a moment. Oh yeah, Hottie, I need to show you some memes. Alright, I got a whole bunch of memes. Where's my memes? Alright, there we go. I'm 4.
Your pick. This is where you
I'm 5.
The goal is to have fun.
A hero challenge. Which one's easier?
Who am I kidding?
I'm gay. Alright, Johnny, let's have a look at your screenshot. Ah, right, because you're watching it in like the theater form or something like that. Right, YouTube gaming wasn't like that. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, that doesn't seem annoying, doesn't it? All right, so
Okay.
all right, we got a meme right here.
You know what to do.
I'll be famous one day, but for now I'm stuck in 2nd grade with a bunch of morons. Oh, I'm in the group Mensa, which is a high IQ organization. Your wisdom makes you superior to others. Oh shit, this game's starting. $95.53 Centaur. What a talented Centaur player. Who's mid? Probably the Kunkka, right?
Consider the possibility.
God, I don't know how to play this hero. And we have a techies. We lost.
Long odds. And what if I don't?
You do whatever you want, brother. I'm not gonna be able to outlast hit you, so if you want to last hit, go for it.
Is all.
Johnny, how do you not have the option?
Don't
That
worry.
nigga has 9 tango.
No. You have dark theme option, Johnny. You just from the wrong screen.
If you insist.
30 seconds to battle.
Your admiral is
Please
It should be top, I
Yeah,
think.
probably.
We're not sticklers.
Hey,
Hey. Ha-
hey.
So many paths to choose.
I will, Johnny, after I play this game.
Come take their money.
Pay attention now. The battle starts.
Okay. I guess we just took their money.
Field right.
I'm still stuck here.
That is one possible course.
Oh, that's nice.
It was ours all along.
That's nice.
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 Well, don't think they really need my help. Ren, I think you're fine, Solo, but pretty sure.
Imagine the outcome.
Yeah, I think we go for A in a sec. Nice.
Nice.
One would hope.
I won't be able to jump again for another 15 seconds.
I'm willing to wait.
Once again and again. This must be decoded.
I need to help. I need to click him there. Oops.
It is all one.
Have we got a gyro? Gyro.
Like those arms.
Ooh, nice.
Nice.
And what if I do? Oh.
No.
Yeah, you gotta coordinate these abilities, you know? Coordinate your abilities, guys.
Is that why?
Yo, let's go.
Yep, go for it.
I cast the rules.
Punt. Oh. Well, damn, that sucks.
Damn, he gone.
Is that
He gone.
once again? I had a feeling.
Oh, I missed the pole. Fuck.
This is all very well.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
As if. That is one possible course.
Let him push.
And what if
Can we go on him?
Go on who?
Launch it.
Got him.
one ought to have known?
Back to Earth.
Aye. I'm healing him.
I'll take it.
If I do, this must be decoded.
Oh, this guy's got a clarity. No clarity for you.
Oh, imagine the outcome. One fortune.
Hey, techies, the star was going. Never mind. It's fine. It's fine.
Killing spree!
How could Johnny not have
level
dark?
3 before I have to jump if I can help it.
Okay. Okay.
Although honestly, we probably just turn on it. He's diving really deep for some reason.
Okay.
Like just turn around and tornado invoker.
Okay.
Do the tornado.
3, 2, 1, let's go!
Wise.
He heard the tornado sound.
Rest in peace. Where the fuck? Konka. Konka.
Okay, where were we?
Wow.
I fucked.
Wow.
100 times my age and you're
I fucked up? I didn't fuck up.
Prize is mine. Double kill.
Oh, you got A? Oh, nice.
I'll take it.
Oh, I might be able to kill this gyro. I'm gonna kill this gyro.
Yeah, he's in it. Yeah, fuck him up.
Never mind.
If that is what one wants. Wish.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I didn't expect the invoker. I mean, not the invoker. I mean the gyro to keep chasing the invoker. Figured like once he heard the tornado, he was gonna get the fuck out.
So go.
Like that's what a sane person would do.
Always.
Back to his team, his Earthshaker. Yeah, go for. He's stuck there for a while.
Oh my god, that's stun.
Shadows take us.
This is all very well.
Careful.
Oh man, I thought I did enough damage. Oops. Oops, 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 oops.
Oh, I got it.
You're dead, techies, you're dead.
Oh, just made it out.
I'm healing myself with tangos, dude.
You're not quite dead today.
Don't say I never gave you anything.
The gyro came bottom. He said, fuck it. Alright, I'm coming bottom to help you kill it. Or you just fucking kill him right now. Oh my god. If you do that, I'm pretty sure he just leaves the game.
If is not a word I use.
No, that's okay. Gyro's still pissed.
Is that why?
Coming bottom to help. Yeah.
That is one possibility.
Killing spree! Your bottom tower is under attack. This is one of the things in the bad guy.
It is all one. It's not time.
Oh shit.
Your bottom tower is under attack.
No.
Rally the troops and get over there!
Yo, I can catch this guy, okay?
No. That's an easy kill.
Dominate!
Alright, good job.
I'll take.
One less to answer for. So many.
Salamene smiles upon me.
I'm gonna come back top.
Okay.
Set up some mines.
Consider the possibility.
That's why.
Boom! Damn, I thought we'd lose this game really hard, but you guys are pulling through. And Miranda, we can kill this gyro pretty easily.
Shadows, take us.
Dun dun. Dun dun.
Ooh, your bottom tower's kinda bad. Why is doing that glowy thing? Yeah, nothing to do it till that's done.
Where'd he go? Okay.
Enemy's middle tower is no more.
Long on.
He doesn't have any mana. He's been beaten.
10-minute runes. 10-minute runes.
Heading over.
Get them runes.
Consider the possibility. Haste.
Coco, I'm running towards you. I can trap that guy. And have some mana for you too.
Cast your fortune. Could go either way.
Damn it, Coco.
Oh, endlessly.
Dominate!
Go, Techies, go!
You set sail for fail.
It is ever thus. I get my
Double kill!
Lively now. You're.
Let's get the fuck out.
if you insist.
This is where we leave. Good save, Mr. Oracle.
One would hope.
Thank you.
Is that wise?
Let me give you some mana.
Oh,
Actually, you're just gonna shrine,
Going
huh?
to shrine.
Never mind.
Yeah.
so it goes.
Oh shit.
This must be decoded. And what if I do?
Thanks.
Game.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
shit,
There's a Pangolier. Yeah, he's hard for us three to kill.
Very well.
We need a right clicker, a real right clicker. Oh, we got a right clicker. Maybe we can use Moonlight even. Yeah, there we go.
As here.
Nice. Yo, Kuka's going on this pang. Got him.
Your middle tower's under attack.
Right.
Look, the enemy's attacking your middle tower. Killing spree! Own it! Best thing about the enemy's top
Ooh,
tower.
I love money.
Once again.
Yeah, Oracle's kind of fun to play, huh?
I have a feeling.
Look at someone steal all your last hits. Oh no.
Move on over to your bottom tower.
Can one ever be?
I'm not that much of a cuck.
Whoa, he said cuck. Does that mean he's an incel, Johnny?
Is that why?
Oh.
One fortune.
Not so safe harbor, eh?
Nice.
Faith in fate.
Your bottom tower is under attack.
Oh.
お前はもう死んでいる。
That's a fun little spot.
No more obstacles. And what if I do?
This is also a fun little spot.
Your mom's behind is a fun little spot.
No, I think it's actually a pretty big spot.
Yeah, I wanted to be nice about it, but all right.
So it goes.
What? Might be nice.
I'm Canadian.
As if.
I might be able to save you, Invoker. Maybe, just maybe.
You guys are making
Nope.
fantastic space, by the way.
The enemy's top tower is falling.
They just lost their jungle tower.
One would hope so.
They're fucking pushing their barracks. What the fuck?
Once again.
These guys are being idiot wieners.
That is one possible course.
Unstoppable!
Yo, I can queue this guy in a second, Miranda. Just you wait, okay?
Your mid tower could talk. It'd be pretty magic.
Nice!
Your friends could probably stop that.
I'm gonna give you a man in a sec, Miranda.
They're spotted.
If that is what
Dominate!
can one ever be sure?
This game's a stomp.
Is all.
Mega kill! Enemy's bottom tower's gone. Nice, right?
Ah!
That is one possible course.
I'm being hunted. Oh, you have to finish channeling it for it to do the thing?
Killing spree!
I had a feeling.
I've got a feeling.
It was all a matter of time. This is all very well.
Which one's better? Most people get the XP gain?
Radiant fortified their structures. Pretty good move if you
Oh
ask
yeah,
me.
that makes a lot of sense. You have to channel this for so long to get the 3.5. Fuck that. Fuck that. Look, that Jarro's a liar. He's a phony.
The enemy's bottom tower has fallen.
One fortune.
Pew!
Enemy's middle tower just turned into a pile of rocks. Are you even watching your top tower?
So I guess Urn is pretty crucial in Oracle, huh? Because then you can heal during False Promise.
Don't hold me to this.
You can also dispel dust with False Promise. And Fortune's End.
I must harm to you. And I don't.
Killing spree!
Don't say oops like you didn't mean to cast that. I was trying to cast too.
The enemy's middle tower has fallen.
Don't mind me.
The enemy's middle barracks has fallen.
Consider
Oh, there you go, Lagger.
The enemy's middle barracks
Oracle.
has a sweet memory. Hey, super creeps! Get your
Super
butts out
creeps.
here.
and what if I do? As if
This guy's like AFK or some shit.
mixed blessing.
To the battle.
Can one be sure?
Yeah, I'm not really sure we need Mirana.
3, 2, 1, let's go!
That is one possible.
Hey, the enemy's top tower's gone! Nice try!
Fate. You must push through the burning. So it goes. Cast your fortune.
Boom!
Commit or don't.
Dominate! Monster kill! Courier is dead. 1-1. We ride. Enemy's bottom barracks just took a dive.
As if.
Forward, pet. The enemy's bottom barracks has fallen.
Once again.
Fuck is going on? Is false promise 2 worth it? Oh yeah, 80-second cooldown. Yeah, that's good.
Wave goodbye to the enemy's top barracks. You now have mega treats. Put your back into it. This one's almost done.
Mirana's back!
Look, if you pause for people, I'm gonna pause for you. It's just science.
Consider the possibility.
So laggard, you like your Oracle game, man? So easy to cast with Oracle.
This is all. Enemy's middle tower just turned into a pile of rocks.
Nice work, fellas.
Good job, everyone. Where's Lagger? This is his game. Hey, bud. Lagger, you playing a game? Why I play Oracle for you? GG, howdy. Hey. Yeah, no, I very, very, very rarely play Oracle. Oh, that guy commend me. Let's see. That was my third game of Invoker on this account. Your first win. First win! 33% win rate. Oh, yeah. All right. There's a new YouTube and an old YouTube? Am I going to play now, JT? I don't know. Would you like to make a hero request? Is it worth it to buy refresh for Oracle's Ultimate? Yeah, maybe if you have a 90-minute game. Hello, Sumit. How's your brother Sumail? Thanks, Owen. Got a new game. Oh, nice! I'm the lowest MMR in my... Never mind. Second lowest MMR in my team.
To ban someone. 5 seconds left.
You want to see Huskar? Ooh, I'll have to play on a Smurf for that.
Okay, your pick now. You know what to do.
YouTube gaming was good, I agree. Hmm.
10 seconds.
Well, we haven't played line yet again. So,
Your pick.
playing line
This
now.
is where you win or lose.
Is it really 23 Savage playing? I don't know. Let's have a look. Is he supposed to be really high MMR? Because right now he's not very high. He's like maybe 6k exactly. Hi, Beneath. Try not to beg too much today, okay, bud? He's a carry player, not mid? Yeah. To be honest with you, I don't even know who that person is. 24/7 Lion.
Welcome back to the war. Is it everything you remember?
That lion looks like something from a nightmare. So this is what you see in your nightmares? You know who's a really scary hero? Burn. Now that is a fucking scary hero. Wait, he's scarier without his set. Yeah, imagine waking up to this. I'd be like, oh shit!
Remember, the goal is to have fun. Yeah, who am I kidding?
But you know what? If I saw this guy above my bed with his fucking glowing arms and fiery horns, I'd probably shit myself too. You know what? You got a good point.
Pick now. Meepo. What?
What is this wizardry? Anyways, yeah, if Savage is a Southeast Asian player, why would he play on my servers? Oh, Visage player, yes, please. Best hero right now. #1 win rate. Thanks, Billy. Bean looks like Horse plus Doom's baby. You know what I think he actually looks like though? I think Bane looks like Lion 24/7.
Your pick. This is where you win or lose.
Warcraft 3 Pudge was at my door. Well, I mean, he's fat, but he looks kind of friendly, although he has gaping holes in his body. Guys, it's not 23 Savage. He's a Southeast Asian player. Why would he play on NA? Because reasons, sorry. Where am I going? Oh, maybe we can get first blood. Safe lane Weaver. Should I bring more tangas? My tangas? Do I like the Dota Plus Lion set? I only like the shoulder piece from it. That's the only thing that I like. Thanks, Lulu.
Hell hath no fury like me.
Hey Miranda, maybe we can get first blood.
It's in the bag. The fight.
This is 1.4 seconds, so don't be too far.
Yes.
Where's the fight? It's in the bag.
Yeah, but he's fat and jolly, Johnny. Fat and jolly. Fat people are jolly.
Where's the fight?
Did he see you, Miranda?
Oh, yes.
30 seconds to battle.
Dun dun. Dun dun. Dun 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 dun.
Where's the fight? Prowling. Oh, hell yes.
Mops right off,
Nice. Nice.
From a start.
Oh, he has time walk. Come on, come on, Miranda. Let's do this. Keep chasing this fucker. Woo!
Forward. To hell and back.
He should use career because he has to fight Tiny. Or will he? Actually, I'm not sure.
Onward. Forward.
He's not even taking much damage. Maybe he won't use career. What the fuck is going on down here?
Onward. Prowling. Yes. Oh, yes.
Come on! Oh my god!
I don't fear hell.
Oh, that's a long walk.
Hell fears me. I grow like the devil.
Wow, we got Coddle instead.
Why not?
So he did end up using his career to buy the spree here. Oh shit! You kill them both. Buy your items.
Yes.
No problem, I lost.
Wah wah.
To hell and back. Oh, hell yes. Verily.
Oh shit! Oh, he's not using his invisibility to get the kill.
Oh, yes.
He could. Maybe.
Couple has dust and sentry. So try.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, hell yes.
Oh, there's a Coddle mid.
Invisibility. Verily.
I don't want to dive tower.
First,
Okay. Okay. Just let him get away from the tower.
no, no, fairy fire.
It's okay. Let him get away from the tower.
We have live. Okay, okay. No?
Okay. 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 Okay.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay.
Okay, 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 okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay.
I'm under attack.
Holy shit! Oh shit!
What the?
Oh shit!
To be rewoven.
Portal's there?
to hell and back to hell and back.
Back!
Okay.
Yes. Not so.
3 top. 3
Okay.
top maybe.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
No. You farm. Okay.
No.
Okay. Okay.
Forward.
Okay. Okay.
You don't have bullets? Oh.
Okay.
Why not?
5-minute runes.
Onward.
I need shiny.
Killing spree!
Oh no. Oh no.
Death transfigures.
Damn it, Weaver, you fuck! Boy's level 3, dude.
Why not? Go like
Oh shit.
this.
I'm coming.
Are you even watching your top tower? Killing spree!
Shy.
Oh, hell yes. Whoa. Yes. Yes. Verily.
Oh shit.
Your bottom tower is under attack.
Why not?
Rally the giant structures are fortified. Out of my way! Radiant structures are fortified. You better puff on over to your bottom tower.
Onward.
Yeah, you need to heal bottom, man.
Oh, hell yes.
Okay. Okay.
Anyway, yeah, just go heal bottom.
Yeah, I'm dead.
Yeah, I'm gonna deny you. Holy shit, you died too fast, man.
Where's the
Your bottom tower is under attack.
Oh shit.
Ooh, your bottom tower is kind of bad.
No.
You gotta do
Okay,
something
Tiny, I
else
see you.
than Just sit there looking funny.
I'm under attack!
Can you push?
Dominate! Dominate! Your middle tower is under attack.
Nice. Fuck, man. I need money to buy wards. So just stand here. There you go.
To hell and back.
Damn, it's the real 23 Savage.
I go like the devil. Yes. Oh, yes.
The enemy's top tower has fallen. Thanks.
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah, speaking of names, you know, guys, names give all the power. Do you know every miracle that I have seen in my games, they were fucking just like Miracle plays. And you know what? I'm gonna change my name to Miracle right now. After I watch Miranda die. Never mind, not changing my name.
To hell and back.
Killing spree! Own it! Monster kill!
You don't want to. You don't.
Want this.
Weaver, help me.
Take body. First, take body.
The prize is mine.
Oh man.
Money changes hands. Yes, invisibility.
There's a lot of items on the courier. Running there, running. This is tactical pause? What? Oh boy. Oh! Two-man stunts. Oh!
Keep chasing, keep chasing. Chase him in the tower, man.
What?
I still got my pride.
Holy shit. Who said that?
Onward. Prowling.
Man, look how like Immortal's ward. It's so fucking similar.
Oh yes. Forward.
Okay.
Good. Oh, what the fuck?
It's fine, man.
Oh,
He used everything.
Wow.
go like the devil.
I'm coming, Tony.
Yes.
TP out, TP out, TP out.
Oh shit.
What the fuck?
We can fight. We can fight. Come on.
Why not?
How's that all about?
Kill me, kill me. Kill me, kill me.
Oh man.
Oh hell yes.
Double kill.
Go 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 go. Go go go. Go.
Yes.
Killing spree.
Nice. Nice. Oh.
Yes. Onward. Yes.
I didn't get finger damage for that, huh? Fuck! Oh, I mean, Tonka died. That's the most important thing.
Why not?
Whoa, godlike. strike!
Onward. Yes.
Dominate!
Come in the middle. Chrono. You chrono. I'm slowly running, bud. Oh shit.
Oh, hell yes.
Oh shit. No! Oh! Who's the 4 again? Marana? Actually, I could save that for later. I don't need to give it to him.
Yeah, sentry.
How have you been playing line wrong, Johan? And how come I don't have Juan yet?
Guy's putting up a barricade.
What? Oh, Carl did die. I thought he survived.
To hell and back.
This guy's dead. Run to your left. Oh, never mind. You're dead.
Try to kill this fucking wheel, guys. I will come. I will keep you.
Verily.
The enemy's middle tower has fallen. I
Why
guess they
not?
built on a fault line.
Lionize me.
Just get top tower.
Regeneration. Prowling. Onward.
Wait, I warded over here and they found that. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Johan, you gotta be sneaky, man.
Oh, hell yes. Oh, yes.
Your bottom tower is under attack.
Venom.
On over to your bottom tower.
Mists of time. You are but a blur. Yes.
Ooh, your bottom tower is
Where's their fucking sentry, dude?
Forward.
I've never said fucking line play. I have never said that. Suckers.
Go shy.
No Anna?
Yes.
I've never said. I've never ever said that. Whatever. No, I love lion players. Lion players are the sexiest, the best.
Go shy.
Why not?
Oh, that's a fail boat.
Verily.
The fuck? I found this ward? They found it. Where's their sentry, you fuck? Oh my god.
Yes. Oh, hell yes. I go like the devil. Battle rages. Verily. Yes. Onward.
¿Cómo hacer eso? Oh,
Why
it's
not?
coming.
Oh, yes. Dominate! Where's the fight?
Fuck.
Oh, wait.
Money changes hands.
I was too late to that party, dude. I was farming mid for nothing.
Prowling.
But seriously, how do they keep finding this ward? Sentry's gotta be over here. Fucking sentries everywhere.
Back.
Can we kill it?
Sucker.
Put hop, put.
Your bottom tower is under attack.
Oh, for good.
Ooh, your bottom tower is kind of bad.
Ryan has you, it's just fine.
They just play top, man.
Oh, hell yes.
I will go base and pick it
Where's
up.
the fight?
I'm fucking dead.
Va.
Stood out.
Back so soon?
Oh no! Oh no! Oh, the pipe! The pipe! The pipe!
Charge. Come here. Come here.
Fast.
Fight him.
Double kill.
Oh no! I should have stopped sucking half second earlier.
Unstoppable truck kill.
Woo! Blink!
Que traes para comprarse todo.
Holy shit, dude! Wow! What a fucking gangster! Look at this guy.
It's over. My rage returns me to the living. Where's the
Go,
fight?
go, Tiny.
Oh!
Push bottom. Push bottom. No venom.
Your middle tower
See you later,
is under
Constantine. Oh shit. I'm dead. Man, I shouldn't have even have tried to ward there, honestly. No yes, Chrono. Yes, Chrono.
What? Chrono just for that?
No. Maybe he has Chrono.
My timeline snaps.
Such a thing be.
Boy has big ABA.
The prize is mine.
Yoink! Run!
Can't touch this. Can't touch this.
This time, I've brought hell back to hell.
Need to put down some words. Running low on vision.
I go like the devil.
Kill me.
Allies. Your bottom
Perfect
tower is
one
under attack.
Q maybe a bit. We need more. No, we need more.
Wonder how much vision they have in our.
Why not?
I need to get with my teammates.
Back, they have sentry.
Prowling. Yes.
Push out bottom.
Yes. Forward. Verily.
Man, I'm always late to these fucking fights. My positioning is not good this game. I'm trying to walk out of here.
Whoa! Double kill.
Okay, we can't fight anymore, just farm. I can him just go late game now.
To hell and back. Why
Your
not?
top tower is under attack. Dire structures are fortified.
Oh, hell yes.
Your top tower is under attack. Enemy's bottom tower's gone. Nice, right? Tower has fallen.
Prowling.
Am I gonna die in a second?
Roshan
Nope.
has fallen to the Dire. Dire's structures are fortified.
Hi, Morale. Motherfucker!
Just farm.
Who put sentry there?
Just push every lane. Just farming. Nothing we can do. We can't fight him right now.
You guy sounds Asian as fuck.
Yes. Hells yes.
They will push, but low mid and top.
Die at my power pours into me. Where's the fight?
Your bottom tower is under attack. Radiant fortified their structures. Pretty good move if you ask me. You better poof on over to your bottom tower.
Prowling.
Bottom tower just took a dirt nap.
Oh, hell yeah.
Defend bottom.
After them.
30-minute runes. Get away from mid. Get away. Get.
They're trying to knock down your middle tower.
To hell and back.
Oh shit.
Your middle tower has fallen.
Forward.
Push our lane, push our lane.
Prowling.
One this.
If your mid tower could talk, it'd be pretty mad at you.
The prize is mine.
Help me, stun. Stun early, man.
Cool down this tower. Cool down. Boy, nó có nó không phải.
Cut whip. Cut whip. Please fight him, no chrono. Go, no failure boy, man, no failure boy, he's still bottom. Kanka. Go.
Corona.
Toss Lion, toss.
Yeah, toss. Oh, okay. This guy's still alive? I thought he'd be dead, to, Void.
Come out.
We can fight it, they have 3 people. Go for support. First, go for support.
The thing about the enemy's top tower is it's gone.
Kill thing if you want to kill thing.
God damn it! They killed Kenny!
Such strength is mine, yes.
You bastards!
Go like the devil.
Have you guys seen Banned in China yet?
Oh, yes. Why not? Yes.
They are missing. They be careful, man. They probably have chrono. Yeah, they should have chrono by now.
Onward. Prowling. My friend.
Go bottom. Stop it, go bottom. Go push bottom.
Okay.
Just go late game, man. We need to icon him.
Yes.
Get back.
What the fuck? That didn't even do any damage.
Look, the enemy's attacking your middle tower. Your middle tower is under attack.
No. We can't fight him. We need more item.
We got one less middle tower now, by the way.
Hi, Milk Tea. Oh god. I shouldn't have bought this Staff of Wizardry. I don't know what I was thinking. This could have been my buyback money. I don't know, man. I don't know. Would I make it that much of a difference?
The middle tower has fallen.
Holy shit, he got away. Oh, welcome back, Milk Tea. Did we just get out-drafted? Feels like we got out-drafted.
Middle barracks are under attack.
Yeah, their team fight just seems to be superior to ours. I don't know.
Middle barracks are under attack. Your middle barracks has fallen.
Yeah, like their team fight is amazing, dude. Kunkka, Carl, Venomancer, CM, Faces Void. Like their team fight is so good.
Your top shrine is under attack.
Uh-oh.
Your top shrine is under attack.
Hey, Moran, it's just me and you. Let's get back. Wow! It just looks like it doesn't even do fucking damage. God, look at me die to this fucking Poison Nova shit.
Not up.
Fight. Your middle tower's under attack. You and a couple of friends could probably stop that.
Why did I get Force Staff?
If your mid tower could talk, it'd be pretty mad at you.
I mean, you could use the Void. He's gonna use BKB during ultimate anyways, but you could use Yules during X, but I don't value my life that much as I value my teammates' lives.